first of all, thank you so much for the invitation to present here. The presentation has a little bit of a different tone than just only about the Utrecht Summer School. I think it got a bit lost in the process, but I think this might still be interesting for you. But I can still talk about the Utrecht Summer School program at the end a bit if I have time left. But I will try to keep it short and to discuss this. But basically, what I want to talk about in this presentation is a little bit about how we think, how the wider public thinks about architecture and what ideas have been installed in our minds and what we can now do to change the perception of how people think about how we could build and what is possible, what is not possible. So that's why the title of this presentation is Changing Architecture One Video at a Time, ? Because of course, I've no idea if this actually going to work and if it will be successful, but I surely hope so. So first of all, little tiny introduction. Ruben Hansen, 33 years old, living in Amsterdam, studied urban planning and urbanism. And I, after working for an engineering firm for a short time, I quit my job to start The Aesthetic City because I, got really annoyed by what I saw in cities and thought, well, is there a better way? And yeah, what I started doing was kind of creating videos and trying to translate the knowledge of, well, a lot of you in the audience, but also a lot of people working in the field of traditional architecture, a lot of the theory that is out there, the incredibly valuable ideas that are out there for a wide public. Because we have the problem of being a bit of an echo chamber in sometimes, and that echo chamber needs to be broken open because we have very valuable ideas which haven't really found their way yet into the world. So I started making videos on YouTube, for example, on Instagram, doing posts and a podcast to kind of just give the floor to, to a lot of people in this community to share their ideas and hopefully bring it to a wider audience because I feel those ideas are worthy worthy of being seen by a lot more people. So, and the YouTube channel did pretty well because I think it also resonated with a lot of people actually wanting more beautiful city, and that the discussion is also about beauty and not only about abstract things that are too abstract for people in general life. So one of the big questions is who will define the architectural debate in the 21st century, because that will determine what defines the architectural debate in the 21st century. Who will be those leading the debate? Which ideas will be the leading ideas? And that is basically, I think, a communication question. Who can communicate their ideas most clearly is the one who's going to win, I believe. And one of the things that really fascinates me always is progress and the vision of progress. What constitutes progress in our minds or in the minds of people? I believe a lot of people believe that progress is simply that they don't have a clear idea. It's change. And we have started to see progress as change for change's sake. Just changing something is not necessarily going to lead to the best, more humane, most healthy, pleasant outcome. It's just going to lead to a new tomorrow, but that new tomorrow could also be detrimental to our health, to our well-being, etc. So I think we should always have an end goal in mind, one of happy, healthy humans and animals and the planet. And the last 70 years or so, perhaps the last 100 years, a lot of new ideas have been installed in our minds. Like there is only one type of architecture that is fit for our time, like modernism, for example. Beauty is subjective. You can't do anything. It doesn't matter what we build because it's all subjective. The whole question of beauty isn't important because it's subjective. Well, that's one of those ideas. We can't build anymore like we did 100 years ago. And there's many more of those ideas which are often based on fallacy. So I believe it's time to deinstall or uninstall some of these ideas because they have, I believe they're detrimental actually to what gets built, and they lead to a lot of problems if we want to create more beautiful and livable cities. And how do you do that? Well, of course, your ideas need to reach a wider public. And before social media and the internet, it was very hard to reach a wide audience. Like you had to get entry to a newspaper, for example. You need to do a journalist needed to write an article about your idea, or you needed to do something yourself, or you needed to rent a billboard or something like that. It was really hard to get ideas to a wide audience. And this made it very easy to gatekeep information, because it's either expensive to get information, or if you have a clique which restricts what information reaches the masses, it's very easy to gatekeep that information. And this has kept the status quo in place simply by
3 minutes, Ruben.
Doing what has always been done. If you're not part of the club, there's no attention for your ideas. But now in 2024, the gates are wide open thanks to the internet. And I actually wanted to add another picture there, but it was short on time. Because we can reach everybody, we can stream ideas 24/7 to people's cell phones all around the world. And this is a major game changer. So it's time to open eyes. And I think with this new information, we can open people's eyes to the rationality of traditional architectural principles, really tell the merit of these ideas to a lot of people, and not just why it should be because of some political belief, but just why it's better for humans. And so this is a really good opportunity for that. And for a lot of people, these new ideas will be unfamiliar, but there will be first time realizations. Like they might start thinking, hey, or seeing, wait a minute, I'm not crazy. I'm not alone in also believing this, because a lot of people will recognize these ideas and they will agree with them, but they feel alone. And until they see that other people also believe this. So they will see, oh, hey, it's perhaps possible to still build beautifully, and building ugly is a choice. And maybe we can make another choice. So I hope with the City to kind of change this. This is kind of the reason for this person. Oh, what, 1 minute?
Yes, correct.
So some examples are, videos about projects, various topics, and I hope this will actually help to inspire action. And the best thing that I can see is real world action as a consequence of one of those videos or one of those podcasts. But this is, of course, possible for all of you to communicate these ideas to a wider audience. So I also invite you to do this your own. And this last slide, I think, one of the last slides. But all these videos are kind of arguments in the form of a video to bring an idea forth. Of course, it comes with great responsibility. We need to be bipartisan, double down on good evidence, and create evergreen content that can always be rewatched. And hopefully we grow a lot more. More information can be found here. And sorry, I didn't have a lot of time for the Utrecht Summer School, but I gladly also contact me, and I can send you all information about the Utrecht Summer School happening in Utrecht this year, where I will also be together with Flavio Diaz-Meron and many others from Inbouw, the Netherlands. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruben. Over to Nir.
Any questions?
So I will let Dr. Buras take things back up from there.
Thank you. Aesthetic City, together with Architectural Uprising, are probably the largest, most effective parts of our movement, and the Utrecht Summer School and its sister, the Mexico City Inbouw operation that Flavio is putting together with Table Ronde in Belgium, are leading the way. There are a few other programs like the new Create Streets programs at Cambridge, and so on and so forth. They're all really working somehow in parallel to push our agenda of having a little bit of beauty out there in the world. Going from the end of June all the way to early September, we have the Cambridge Center for Classical Architecture, the Alsace Roundtable, not Alsace, sorry, the Alsace Table Ronde. There's later on one in Bruges. There's a program at Oxford by Robert Adam in Portugal. There's an Inbouw program. Sherborne is the Create Streets program. The second Table Ronde, Utrecht, that is the program that Ruben and Flavio are running. And then there's going to be a Classic Planning Academy intensive in Paris at the end of August, beginning of September. We're going to take a few-minute break. Oh, Nikos.
Oh, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank Ruben on behalf of all my colleagues and friends. Ruben is doing a phenomenal job. I think he's following the great Fidel, who said, to win the revolution, the first thing we do is take control of the radio station. So Ruben is broadcast.
In fact, to get us to our table ronde next, what I will do in the meantime is I will put a link to a piece of paper in the chat, and everybody can
Perfect.
add from there. So as we bring on our
So
table
really
ronde
help us out here.
moderators,
Have that piece of paper as complete as you can possibly imagine. I'm genuinely asking from you, and thank you very, very much. What's next on the agenda? Where are we? Who are we? Who ordered the veal
next,
cutlet?
we would like to welcome Mr. Noé Morin for our
And
table ronde de
Nadia
l'architecture.
Everard, both? Are you both here?
I believe so. Could we get a hello from our
Hi, hello, good
round
evening,
tables?
everyone. It's the evening for me. I don't think it's the evening for you. And I'm apologizing for Nadia because she can't join us, unfortunately. So I will be alone tonight. So if it's okay with you. Yes. Would you like me to perhaps start my presentation? Yeah. Yes. Well, I guess it's a yes. I'm starting then. First, thanks. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you to the CPI for organizing this great event. Well, I don't think I'm going to need a PowerPoint. So I will perhaps say a few reflections that are in line with the philosophy of our association, La Table Ronde de l'Architecture, the Round Table of Architecture, about handwork. And I'd like to start by saying that our modern civilization separates the manual professions from the intellectual professions, the brain from the end. If you are an intellectual, it's normal to spend your life behind a computer, in an office surrounded by books. I'm afraid I have a few behind me, without the slightest contact with nature. And if, on the other hand, you are a manual worker, everything suggests that culture is not for you. And even if you feel the desire to immerse yourself in a book, you often don't have the time or the energy to read. So this division of labor actually emerged in modern Europe and is something to which we Westerners have gradually become accustomed. Two categories of people look at each other with lack of understanding and sometimes hostility, the manual workers and the intellectuals. This disconnect that runs through our societies is not a good thing. The estrangement between the manual and the intellectual creates frustration at both individual and social levels. For individuals, this amputation of the life of the mind, or this uprooting from the concrete reality of the world, represents suffering because they realize that they have become hemiplegic. At a social level, the separation of manual workers from the intellectuals creates resentment and class contempt. So why is this separation so harmful? Well, first, because it is not natural. From the outset, man has been Homo sapiens as well as Homo faber. Many of his intellectual faculties were developed through the use of tools. The French prehistorian André Leroi-Gourhan showed in his major book, Le geste et la parole, in English, the gesture and speech, that the development of human intelligence was made possible because prehistoric man stood up on his two legs, making his hands available for activities other than walking. And with their hands free, our ancestors began to fashion tools, weapons, bifacial splints, kitchen utensils, braided ropes, and so on. The region of the brain used to control gestures is close to the region of the brain used to speak. By developing their gestures through tool making, prehistoric man activated their ability to speak. And speech obviously opens up the world of the mind, the possibility of communicating, teaching children, reasoning, formulating abstract thoughts, and feeling empathy for our fellow creatures. So it is therefore gesture, concludes Leroi-Gourhan, that gives rise to speech, and speech in turn gives rise to the mind. So without the end, without the gesture, it is possible that man would have remained in a very backward phase of his development. So what about architecture? Well, architecture too suffers from the division of the labor that affects the rest of the society. This division emerged during the Renaissance, when the architect's profession broke away from the construction crafts to become an artistic profession in its own right. At the beginning of the 15th century, Brunelleschi wrote that the task of the trades was to carry out the architect's designs as faithfully as possible for the part for which they are responsible, without taking the slightest initiative. This way of building, in which the architect conceives the plans in the solitude of his genius, and the craftsmen are workers with no personality, deprived of the slightest margin of creative freedom, appeared during the Renaissance and has defined the profession of architect to this day. This conception of the architect's role is in complete contradiction with the medieval spirit, for example, where the master builder is called upon to design the building in its broad outline and then to withdraw and coordinate the work of the craftsman. A Gothic stone mason has the right to freely design minor ornamentation. Brunelleschi, on the other hand, went so far as to design the molds for the bricks used in the construction of the dome of Florence Cathedral. In the Quattrocento, the so-called architect became a brilliant but solitary artist. Today, the rift between the architect and manual workers is fully complete. The vast majority of architects know nothing about the building trades. They don't know the principles of carpentry, the stereotomy of stone, roofing, zinc work, or how to work with terracotta, lime, or plaster. How can you design traditional architecture if you don't know how it is built? This leads us to the following conclusion. Traditional architecture is not a matter of style or aesthetics, but rather a constructive science that has refined its processes over thousands of years. The aesthetic conception of architecture that led the 19th century, for example, to erect buildings that were magnificent but sometimes aberrant from a construction point of view, helped to propagate the belief that traditional architecture was no more than an aesthetic whim. In the 20th century, this gave its detractors the strength they need to organize its replacement by modernism, a form of architecture reputed to be rational and functionalist. So we could discuss this subject at length, but I'm aware that time is short, and I would like to say that the following conclusion: at the Table Ronde de l'Architecture, the Round Table of Architecture, we realized that the divorce between the architect and the craftsman was a central problem. We are therefore trying, through our summer schools, to reconcile architecture with crafts. Our students receive both architectural and craft training. Even if this course is short, and too short, it has the merit of existing, and what they learn in theory, our students also put into practice. When they learn Gothic geometry, they then receive manual training in bricklaying and stone stereotomy. When they learn about ornamentation, they also get their hands dirty by practicing plasterwork with a very talented master, none other than Patrick Webb. And when they learn about pitch roof, they also get to meet a roofer who explains the different materials and roofing methods. This approach, combining theory and practice, seems to us to be the only way to revive traditional architecture. This is the condition for architecture to once again become a genuine technical science that involves hundreds of trades and not an abstract and solitary aesthetic exercise. So I'll finish here, and thank you very much for listening, and I wish you all a very pleasant evening in case it's the evening for you.
Wow, that was amazing. Yes, the answer is yes. The rest is the practicalities and the technicalities of how do we scale this up and bring it to to get political support so that we can have laws written to subsidize this kind of work. I think we just need to have that done somehow or other. And it's not a political moment for us. We're just interested in building nice stuff, but it is a necessary moment for society. Excellent. And thank you so much for being here in regards to Nadia. You guys are the leaders. in all this. All right, thank you. And
Thank you
next,
very much. Thank you, and thank you on behalf of Nadia as well.